Having a bulk of textbook to read for a particular course of subject can be overwhelming. As a result of this, series of questions can be popping into your head, such as how will you be able to finish the textbook reading before the exam day? How exactly will you read it in order for you not to get tired? And how will you retain the information and be able to remember when it is needed? Right here on today's video, I'll be showing you exactly how you can study any textbook effectively and efficiently. And I'll be providing answer to these questions I stated. Before I go into what we have on today's video, you are dropping tips and strategies that can help you as a student learn time, and as a result of this, it will put you on the right direction and get you the grades you desire. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, please consider subscribing to my channel right now. In order for you to be able to read your textbook effectively and efficiently, I've broke down the steps you'll be taking into 2 steps, and each of these steps has sub steps, and I'll be stating each of these as we go on in this video. Now, for the first step, there are a series of things you need to take into consideration. Now, the first thing is to know the purpose why you want to pick up that textbook to read. Now, if you know the purpose why you're picking it up, it will enhance your focus and it will focus your mind. Some people might want to read textbooks just to get particular insights about what they are planning to read, or some people just want to have a full detail of a particular subject matter. So if you know the purpose why you want to pick up that textbook and read, it will focus your mind and you have a maximum attention while you are reading it. And another thing you need to take into consideration before you start studying at all is to not overthink the process and just start. Don't overthink it that, oh, this thing is too much, how will I finish it? Oh, it's over 400 pages, how will I finish reading it? No, don't do that. Just start, and as you go on, you get used to it. And the other thing you need to take into consideration before you even start at all is to get a notebook. Now, it is very important because now the textbook is so voluminous for you to read, and it is important for you to extract the main idea from the textbook into a small note, and subsequently you don't have to go back to the textbook. You just pick up the book and read, the notebook and read rather. Aside from that, it enhances your attention and it makes you focus on what you are reading, and as well, it makes you reflect on what you are reading at any particular time, because while you are writing and you are reading the textbook, you are also thinking at the same time, and you'll be able to connect it to what you've learned before, and it's going to be a smooth process. So instead of just reading it without you putting something down, it's just like pouring water inside a basket. That is how it is. Another thing you need to take into consideration is to start small. Now, a lot of students can be worried that, oh, I have to start reading about 10 pages just now. No, it doesn't work like that. Most especially those that just want to start reading the textbook, or they've never tried to read a textbook at all and they want to attempt reading it. So the first thing you need to do is to start small. You can just start with a paragraph, and by the time you go on, you can go on by reading just 1 page, and you go on by reading 2 pages per day. As you go on, it becomes part and parcel of you, and it gets easier, and you just find yourself reading 5 pages or even more per day. So start small steps instead of taking big steps. It is very important. And one thing you need to know is that you cannot finish a textbook in a very short period of time. You have to take breaks, and you have to keep going back and reading again. That is how it works. You are not expected to finish the whole 400 or 200 pages in just one day. It is not possible. So those are the things you need to take into consideration in the first step, and it is very important before you actually start studying at all. Now, this is the next step you need to take, and it is actually the studying process. So I'll be taking you through the step-by-step process that you need to take in order for you to study your textbook efficiently. So the first process is just about your mindset, and just to remove every limiting beliefs and everything that you need to do. The first step you need to do. So after taking through the first step, this is another step, and this step, it is very important because it determines the rate at which you retain what you are reading, and it determines how you'll be able to remember in the long run. It has to do with how you can actually transfer what you are reading into the long-term memory. So these are the few steps that you need to take. But first of all, I would like to say something. Before you can learn anything at all, or before you can actually understand and make anything stick to your brain, you must have had some pre-knowledge of that particular thing in your brain. You must have had some experience or some understanding of a previous knowledge before you go on to the new idea. And most of the textbooks that we have are so complex, and it's very difficult for you to grasp this main idea. These are the first steps you need to take when you get a textbook and you open to a chapter 1. Now, the first thing that I recommend for you is to go through the table of contents. This is the reason why I'm saying you should go through the table of contents. Now, the table of contents is for you to prime your brain. What is priming? Priming is a process of getting your brain ready to grasp the whole idea of what the book is about. A particular book can consist of 13 chapters. Now, you can go to the table of contents and glance through all the contents in that particular textbook. When you glance through, you are priming your brain. You are actually getting your brain ready to accumulate the other details you have inside the book. So go through the table of contents, and after going through the table of contents, and the next thing you need to do is, when you want to read the chapter 1 of that textbook, go through the introduction paragraph. It is very important. Introduction paragraph will give you an holistic detail of what the detail is all about. And after going through the introduction paragraph, the next thing you need to do is to go through the summary. Even before reading the main idea, go through the summary. The summary just go through the simple terms by stating everything that has to do with the main idea with just a simple language. So if you go through the introduction and you go through the summary, now you have a little bit of idea of what the book is about. Now, when you're now going through the detail, you are not reading anything new again. You already know what you have to see. So and anytime you are reading it, you connect to the summary and you connect to the introduction, and you'll be able to have an in-depth understanding of what that book is all about. It is very important. Now, there are textbooks that do not have introduction or summary, and they are actually stated in paragraphs. And a particular paragraph is talking about a particular idea in a particular book. So it is important for you to go through the first paragraph. If you go through the first paragraph, it will explain what the whole content is talking about. So first go through the first paragraph. In fact, you can have about 5 paragraphs in a particular book. Go through the first paragraphs, then it gives you a little bit of idea of what it is about before you go through the main content. And there are some books that have titles and subtitles. Get familiar with these titles, get familiar with these subtopics. And then another thing is to go through the deep reading, that is study reading. At this point, you are going into the main detail. You are going into the main book. You are going into the meat of the book. Now, when you are doing this, you are reflecting, you are elaborating, and you are also generating at this point. Now, elaboration is you are actually connecting it to the introduction and the summary that you've read, and you are reflecting it by asking yourself questions that, am I really understanding this thing? Does this really make sense to me? Have I experienced this before? If you go through the main idea, you are actually gathering this information. And while you are doing this, I recommend you should jot down, because the main idea can be so much. So you can jot your own idea down. And when you do this, it retains the information and you won't need to go back to the main idea when you are actually going back to read it again all over again. So all this process, if you go through all this process very well, you'll be able to retain that particular information. And subsequently, if you go back to it and you practice the retrieval practice, you practice the spaced repetition, and you go through all these methods of actually retaining anything you read. So you can check out this my former video on how to study to understand instead of memorizing is on the card above. If you watch that video, you actually have an in-depth understanding of what I mean by elaboration, reflection, and generation. So if you go through all this when you are reading the meat of the book, that is the detail of the book, you'll be able to have an holistic understanding. And by the time you repeat the process over and over again, you get used to the process and everything will go on fine. Now, a lot of confusion can happen when you do not follow this process, and the confusion is simply because you don't have a particular thing to hold what you are reading to in your brain. You don't have a previous knowledge. Previous knowledge is very important whenever you want to study. So if you don't have previous knowledge, that's what causes confusion when you are reading. So, and if you follow all this process that I've said, by going through the introduction, go through the summary, go through the main paragraph, go through the table of contents, you have a little bit of previous knowledge, and you go through the main idea. Now, after doing this and you don't still understand, or you are still confused, now there are some textbooks that do not contain more detailed explanation of what you are reading at any particular time. That is why it is very important to get other sources. If you get other sources and you actually combine these books together, you are reading on a particular topic sentence, and you combine different books, about 4 books together, and you are reading that particular topic from different books, it gives you an holistic meaning, and you'll be able to have an in-depth understanding of what you're talking about at that point. So if you follow this process and you go through this process, you will actually retain anything you are reading, and you'll be able to remember, and you study your textbook effectively and efficiently. If you got value from this video, please like this video and also subscribe to my channel. And also you can check out this other video on how you can study to understand instead of memorizing. So thank you so much for watching, and see you on the next one.